Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Holmes. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, we are housekeepers, so we have some housekeeping for you. But this housekeeping it's a good house. We're keeping up a home. So that means we got to take care of it. And what that means is everything that we use to take care of our home is genuinely what we love and value and appreciate. And so to keep up our spiritual home, our body home, and our mind home, we're going to start with our first sponsor, which is Cabin on the Coulee Farm. This is where we go when we want time to read our books, to go on our hikes, and to chop our wood, or just have our conversations amongst ourselves about the end of the world, but at least we're doing it with a really nice view. So you guys can go onto cotc.ca to check out Cabin on the Coulee Farm.
Yes, and they are rated #1 farm stay in Canada, according to trip101.com. And you can book from May to November. It is open season, everybody.
Yeah, and so you can scroll down, and then on the website, you will see that there are 3 options for you, glam sites. The cabin, which holds 6 guests, 3 bedrooms, and 4 beds. It's their largest glam site.
Yeah.
And then you have the Coulee Yurt, which is 5 guests, 3 bedrooms, and 3 beds. Very, very nice interior. It's so nice. And then the Grouse House, which is 4 guests, 1 bedroom, and 2 beds for the smaller experiences.
Yeah.
But you guys will be glad to know that all of these sites now are pet friendly. And that was not always the case when we were doing our previous videos, but now it is. And the reason we know that, and the reason you would know that, is if you checked out Cabin on the Coulee Farm Substack to get all the updates on what's going on with the latest and greatest with this business. And so you guys can get whatever future projects are going forward, and also, funny enough, an interview by the owner of this business with Maddie and I. And you will see that Maddie, we're wearing a particular garment that is...
If you want to get this Alberta jersey, and you guys can find the Alberta jersey on our Buy Me a Coffee, but instead of buying us a coffee, you guys are going to buy us some matcha. And you will see a shop tab on the right. That is where you can get these jerseys to match me and Macy. And if you do, send us a photo. And originally we did these jerseys just for the Alberta patriotism of it.
To infiltrate hockey games.
Yeah. And we were surprised that people from BC wanted to buy these jerseys, and have been, because it turns out it's not about making the money.
It's about sending a message.
And this message is nationwide. And on Nationwide, it dawned on me that our mother is actually a real estate agent. So if people want to capitalize on this Alberta patriotism and the investment that is coming here because of the Alberta movement, my mom can help you out with that transition into our province. If you guys are on the other side and you're not really sure, a bit more uncertain, want more ground somewhere in the US, our mom can also help you with the sale out of Alberta. So I will put her email in the description box for people to capitalize on.
Yeah, you guys know that we are hugely family centric. So when you support our mama homes, you support us as well. And we really, really thank you guys for that. So
yes, and on the last product that we wanted to share with you guys is something that we use on a quotidian basis. This is actually our hair care
and our skincare.
We use South Korean product. It's called Reman. And the reason we use this stuff is because South Korea, they regulate their products heavily, contrary to here in the West, where they allow thousands of products because it's proven efficacious, according to people like the FDA. They have thousands of product that you're not allowed to put in because they know it's not efficacious. So they have much higher standards. And in this particular stuff, the 2 main ingredients are byungpool, which is tiger grass, and they use lava water, which is mineral filled water. It is not dead distilled water.
So healthy products, which we love. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining us in our preamble and this housekeeping to keep all our houses well kept. And without further ado, we can get on with the episode.
You won't.
Oh, we just did, you dingus.
Oh, you did? All right. I lost that bet. Damn it. Okay. Awkward start yet.
The editing journey has already begun.
And, okay, Maddie, go.
No, so if everybody can't already tell, we are very good friends with the 2 guests.
Oh, we're just going off of this? Okay.
Might as well.
Today on At Home with Holmes, we have Matthew Ehret, which actually me and Macy, last time we had him on was when we were doing our Home Squared segment, and as well as Jason Dahl, Home Squared. So this is the first time we have Mike for just At Home with Holmes, Jason, and Matthew, and this is because He and Jason just came out with a masterpiece of a docu-film. What's the title? Black Sun something or other.
Black Sun
Black
Rising.
Sun
Rising.
Rising. The
Yeah, there you go.
esoteric roots of Nazism.
Yes.
Yes, and we've, as a family, watched all of them, but this, I have to say, is by far the best. Definitely, in terms of, because all of your docufilms, of which there are tons, people can find on the Canadian Patriot YouTube channel. There it is very nicely put in a playlist for you that'll be in the description box. When you go on canadianpatriot.org to find the new one that you guys rightfully put behind a paywall,
Yes.
it is definitely the most concise in terms of still with the density of information. It was still very palatable, all things considering. So, and then the effects, just from an editing standpoint, were absolutely superb. So that is going to be the main thing of this episode that we want to pick these guys' brains on.
Well, to put a little bit of context on this for the viewers, Jason Dahl is one of the founding individuals that, through his access and openness and willing to like try to hunt down truth, I had stumbled upon his podcast. Just was like shortly after the truckers convoy and things had gone on, and he was engaging in the chat because I engaged in the chat with him, and was making reference to Matthew Ehret, whom through the Reiner Fulmick Corona Investigative Committee way back in the day, that's when I first stumbled upon Matthew's work. So it is through the 6 degrees of separation that while I was engaging with Jason, he was kind enough to then see that there was something of interest for my family connecting with Matthew. And then when Matthew and Cynthia eventually connected with the family, these two were considered like royalty in our household. So that's just on that aspect. So people have an understanding of context there. There's a lot of love and respect that we have to offer them. And then as someone who's been a connoisseur of information at a dastardly level in the last 6 years, I'm gonna go out on the limb and say thus far this is the best work that I have gotten to witness coming out of Dollhouse Studios. Plus the scripting was excellent, the fact that it was set up in chapters, the information was very concise, well delivered, the effects that Jason has offered with Dollhouse Studios work has been off the charts excellent. Like I got to watch contextually the evolution of his collaborative work and his genius that he brings to bear, meshing with Matthew and Cynthia's genius. So taken as a whole, I would like to say that I understand why it's behind a paywall, as it should be, because we have an ongoing fun sense of humor around the Holmes household that paid J is better than unpaid J. So we definitely believe that there should be, people should invest whatever money is invested to go and check out this documentary, because it is a work of art. Yeah, like from my opinion, it is probably one of the best I've seen. So wanted to pump your guys' tires because you're brilliant. It was excellent. Loved it.
Guys.
My two
Yeah,
bits
go,
to that
Macy.
was going to be, so we also have watched all of Jay and Matthew and Cynthia's documentary series. And so if you guys want to sort of kind of get your palettes all ready, I would recommend you watch The Hidden Hand Behind UFOs as well, just to also promote that work, because Jay and Matthew and Cynthia also collaborated on that. And then they're just as beautiful.
Yep.
But this one definitely was, I think, a good, like, I don't want to say magnum opus, because Jay, you're just getting started. Like,
Yeah.
you are not finished yet. But I think it was also by far one of my favorites. And so, and a lot of the, I loved how, just to not like spoil too much, but just to give homage, is when you look at Hidden Hand Behind UFOs, it's cool because a lot actually of what you learn really connects to the Black Sun documentary and vice versa. And so it's just, yes, as Manny said, palatable, but it's also coherent, as in the narrative. Some people might think like, oh, UFOs, like they can't be related to like Nazism, and like lo and behold, it fucking can. So I was like very impressed. It was amazing. So that's all I wanted to
It
say
can't
as
be
well.
related to Greek mythology.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yes, it can.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, it
Or it can't be
can.
related to Carl Jung. Oh, wait, yes, it
Yes,
can.
it can.
It can't be related to H.G. Wells. It just keeps on exploding and growing. And then each film in different series, or even the standalone ones, they're all starting to intertwine too.
Yes.
Where it's this common thread coming through everything, and it's all esoteric.
Yeah, it's a fun experience, eh? And I'm discovering a lot by just like leaning into this. I didn't know where this was gonna go, and the reason why we even did the thing that we've done so far. And Jason, and thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, guys. It's
Yeah, yeah.
really really cool.
Oh, shucks.
But the reason why we're
Stop.
more smoke up the arse, please. More smoke. No, seriously, it's so cool to just like be able to talk about this topic, especially you guys. And Jason, I'm so happy that you invited Jason into the fold too, because without Jason, I mean, my God, I was looking at the script and before I shot it at Jason, I was like, there's no way. It's like I can't turn this into a movie. But you did it, Jason. You're brilliant. And I mean, you completely, every time I like give you a new threshold, you bust through it and give us like a whole new set of parameters that I never thought was even possible to like dance in. So it's really cool. And this is kind of like the unofficial episode 5 of the Hidden Hand Behind UFOs series. Because and people will see this as I'm still crafting. It's been challenging to make the script for the official episode 5, but I think we needed to kind of go through this because from episode 1, which starts with the ancient roots of the mystery cults that Cynthia wrote and narrated, which for me was even like a little bit much of a surprise because I'd been researching this for like 20 years, but I was still focusing on it from the standpoint of the Rockefeller Foundation behind the growth of the UFO disclosure PSYOP movement. I was looking at it from the standpoint of the CIA, a lot of the 20th century practical geopolitical stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I was coming at it all from. And, it was impressive enough to a certain degree, but it still wasn't dealing with the essence of what it was that we were touching on. And Jason and I even made a film way back in 2022 where I gave Jason like a preliminary script. He turned into a really decent movie, but it just wasn't working. And then Cynthia looked at the script and she was looking at the movie and she was like, it's because you're missing the occult. It's clearly occultism. And I'm like, but I don't know how to talk about that. And we had a fight. We fought about this. And she was like, no, you got to look at the mystery cults. And she'd done more work on it. And I was like, well, fine. If you think you're so smart, you come up with a script. You do it.
Oh, I love how she said, hold my beer. Because
yeah, that's what she did. It's exactly it.
Yeah.
And she's like, fine.
Hold my beer and I'll narrate it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I went to bed and I woke up and she had a script done.
Yeah.
And I was like,
she's like, I am so smart.
And both Jason and I at first were like, that's pretty different for what we expected. But I realized, and Jason realized too over time, that it was like, that's exactly the space needed, because she went straight into the ancient Babylonian priesthood, oracle system of control of Greece and Rome, and how that then migrated into the Christian veneer and then manifested in the spiritualist movement of Swedenborg and the Mormons as the world's first UFO cults. And then up into the spiritualist movement that gave rise to Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophists. And she kind of ended it there with a promise that we're going to take it now into the 20th century. But it was just right. It was so perfect because it created a space also in my mind and Jason's mind, I think, around which we could now move that we couldn't beforehand. And so, the first 4 episodes of the UFO, the Hidden Hand Behind UFO things, was a great exercise leading up to the hoax of Roswell and how this multi-generational magic trick has been sort of invoked to bring about basically a reset of world religions. Unfortunately, that's what the UFO thing is, for those. Big spoiler alert. But then it was difficult to write episode 5 on the UFO cults. And I realized in because this current movie, like, there's clearly an effort to try to nudge conservatives towards becoming kind of neo-Templar fascists. There's a movement to do that on the left and the right, to turn the left fascist, which we clearly see quite well advanced, right, with the Soros anarchist fascist movements, the Antifa fascists. But then inversely, where you get a left, you get a right. You get a controlled dialectic. And so with things like Stu Peters' films on Occupied, which, anybody who watches Stu Peters and gets a sense of how he's been spinning and rewiring the story of World War II as Hitler being the good guy, the Jews being the bad guys, in a very simplistic narrative. And then Nick Fuentes, a big provocateur radicalizer of a lot of conservatives, a young guy who's got, I don't know his backstory, but he's got some weird handlers who are managing his the type of narrative that he also has been promoting, that Hitler was a cool and awesome guy. Like, this is clearly going somewhere. So we decided to make this story, and in so doing, created the space for this episode 5 on the UFO cults to finally emerge properly, because you can't understand any of the UFO cults that emerged in the late 40s. My camera's moving because of an AI.
Oh, it's good. It follows your hands, man. It's good. Yeah. We're going to the left and then to the right.
Yeah.
Good. That's actually good.
You could do dance number. Sorry.
Not yet. I'm not ready for that yet. That level of hypnotism the audience isn't ready for yet.
Oh, definitely not. He dances
That
like a
level of booty
jellyfish,
shaking
for
is not
those
ready.
who don't know.
Oh yeah, you guys have seen that. So anyway, we did the script. Now episode 5 is going to be easier with the Nazi sort of pedigree behind the UFO cults, and why a lot of the Venusian sort of testimonials of how these Venusian Aryan beings were all blue-eyed Teutonic Venusians. Why was it that characteristic of the alien? The first description of aliens is because all of these people who are describing that were formerly promoters of Nazism in America, and then just kind of reshifted gears after World War II. Didn't work out the way some had planned it to, and created a new sort of technique of infiltrating the mass psyche. So it's perfect what Jason was able to do with the script. I found it a big learning experience. So Jason, yeah, man, I mean, throw it at you now. How did you deal with that crazy script? Like, what's the first thing you do when I give you a script that's that wild and nonlinear? What do you do with that? Like, how do you?
I think of the audience that watches these and they must have just no idea what goes into it. I think I'd agree with the Holmes that this is probably our best one yet. And there's a real evolution that's happened in it, visually and storytelling wise, cohesiveness and all that stuff. But that is a hard fought battle. I think 6 months, about all told, probably about 4 official script revisions, including dumping half of the work that we already had done at one point, which is great. It's indicative of how perfectionist everyone on the job is.
That's true. I forgot about that. Like the first draft of the script was very different, and you already began working on it before we were like, no, this is not working this way. We have to like redo everything.
Brutal.
Yeah,
Right.
by my count, it was, I think, 4 like official actual drafts that we were like, okay, here we go. We'll start working on that. But then like a couple weeks later, this part, I got to explain that. This isn't quite working. I mean, to me, it's a miracle that any of this stuff can get turned into something that's a script that's like 30 minutes or 60 minutes long. The stuff that you have to include to, okay, you're going to say he's part of this esoteric group. Well, now you got to explain what that is, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you look like an idiot, right? Or you're going to it's like Noam Chomsky said in that manufacturing consent documentary. He doesn't like going on Newsline at 10 p.m. because he's given 120 seconds to speak, and the first thing out of his mouth is going to be something that the entire nation has never heard before. And everybody's just going to say, you're crazy. And then they'll switch back to the other guy. He'll say exactly what everybody's been hearing all their life and just reinforce it with a couple sentences, right? So that's always with Matt and Cynthia's scripts, always the challenge is you're going to say like, actually, there was I don't even know where to start in the film. There's like underground esoteric cults, and they're all tied into theosophy and all this stuff. It's all demonstrably real, but they haven't heard it before. And being on X or any kind of, I don't know, Freedom Crowd space or anything, everybody thinks everything is a conspiracy tied to everything already.
Right.
And so your first instinct is to go, yeah, sure, right. But it's got to be explained. So finding that path is always a trick with these scripts, and the revisions are super normal, right? But this one I think was especially hard one. It took a lot of time. It went over Christmas into my winter of hell in Yukon, and so it a good half a year to get this done.
Right.
The real sweat goes into it.
I find that funny
Yeah.
because like you're talking about people making assumptions. So it's like they see the title and assume because, you know, guilty by association, everybody's got the big web figured out. And that's kind of why we initially wanted to have this podcast with you guys on our segment Changing Axioms, you know, because we realized, okay, so there's a lot of people that are having to change their assumptions about the world. And the thing with people doing research, they make assumptions that they know the thing. And then you guys, as the researchers, have to go, actually, all of the assumptions that even we, because once you get to a certain threshold of knowledge, you make inferences. So there's tons of things that you and we could all just throw out there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't actually mean a lot of other people know. And so where we would just make the assumption people know, we have to unassume and we have to break down the step-by-step blueprint for both the people that don't know and the people that think they know. Because again, with this whole psyops and changing assumptions, changing axioms, people have been swinging the opposite direction. So because you figure out one web that you originally were down is not the case, people are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So, oh, you mean people we were lied to about World War II? That means Hitler must be good. It's like, no, how about he can still be bad, but not in the way that they were telling us or with different connections that we didn't understand. So
Well, that and also like who's telling you, right? Because the guys that are telling you apparently the guys that funded the bastard. So it's like it's one of those. That's why I liked listening to it and the evolution of the storytelling. What kind of made me kind of go like, ooh, this is good for even people that, because as a person that has a little bit less of the assumptions just from following your guys' works in these great films, is that we still are aware of where some people are like, oh, well, Elon Musk must be a good guy because of like X, like right, and so then even when you're kind of going through the transition of each chapter, it first kind of opens up like Matthew always loves to do, which is a little bit of a paradoxical question to kind of go like, well, if the Jews are so bad, right, then how come they were also funding like Zionism in the Palestinian state? Like, what's that about, right? And so then it's, well, why is that? And then you start to answer the question. You start to go like, well, why would they care to do that thing? Oh shit! Oh, a weird ass cult. Okay, got it. And then what are the actions that led them to do this thing? And then why are they doing it? And then it kind of just loops back into like the overall narrative to kind of go like, oh, this is why they're doing it. And then it's subtle, just a little seeds for people as well when you start to say like, and that's why, you know, we need to investigate further into the Elon Musks. And you don't necessarily like flat out try and like defame anybody. You're more so just kind of going like, and these are just people that oddly find themselves interconnected in this web, and we should probably ask ourselves why. And I think that's a good approach.
Yeah, it's nice that it felt like there was reasonable hand holding through how this episode and this particular documentary played out, and we found that very complimentary, because like I even saw it as, okay, this is going to do well even with individuals that may not fully know your guys' work, and it's a nice introduction that could whet their appetites to then go back and take a look at further works that Jay's produced under the rubric with you and Cynthia's work. So yeah, that's definitely one of the more applaudable points I found with this particular documentary.
I gotta say that the absolute anchor in this film is that Matt dug up all those quotes of Hitler. I mean, we could infer anything that we want from his behavior or his general tactics, but if the overall thing is to be like, don't be fooled, Hitler wasn't some Catholic hero trying to save the West from the hordes.
Yeah.
It'd be direct quotes of him saying Christianity is stupid.
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's no room for wiggle.
Yeah,
no. So the very core of the film is not bonkers. It's not inference. It's not just somebody.
Well, that blew my mind as well when I didn't even, when I discovered that he had the Reichsbibel, like that there was such a thing. I didn't even know that was a thing, and I thought that I was pretty well informed as a conspiratorial history oriented person, and I didn't know until you look. As soon as you get the idea that okay, there was such a thing, you're like, well, what was this Reichsbibel? And then you're like, oh, he rewrote the whole damn thing. And
honor thy Führer.
Yeah, honor thy Führer. Like that's too much. And it makes you wonder why most people don't know that, and a lot of people still somehow are confused about him being some sort of a genuine Christian, and it seduces a lot of the target audience of those who are being brainwashed around him becoming the good guy of World War II, because it's the target audience is mostly a Christian conservative audience who's being sold this package. And no, the
I
evidence
don't
is
think
that
that's by accident.
no, not at all.
Matthew's
When you
documentary
watch
proves it's not.
when you
But
watch
there's a
Europa,
reason why it also works against those ideologically possessed minds. Like there's a reason why the disgust mechanism is higher in conservatives than it is in liberals, so to speak. Now, we will liken this to brain work, obviously, between the right and left hemisphere. But there's a reason why it's like whenever we're looking at the work that you guys put out, we also ask ourselves, why does it work? Because the one thing about the human disposition and how we are designed is these magic tricks, because these people like to consider themselves black magicians, but their tricks work. They have continuity of killing us on mass levels throughout all of history. So they have continuity of playing a game that we are susceptible to. And we would be, what's that Mark Twain line? It's easier to fool a man than to convince a man he's been fooled.
Oh yeah, right. That's good. Yeah.
well, yeah, and you
Absolutely.
watch Europa, and if you watch it and just watch it, it seems like it's presenting good evidence. Seems like it's clear. It can be very convincing at some spots, but they either didn't know about or weren't interested in those conversations with Hitler books, which is a very obscure book. I'm sure it's world famous amongst scholars of World War II and Hitlerism.
I mean, it's Martin
But-
Bormann, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's Bormann's testimonials, who's Hitler's second in command, who's delivering these testimonials of Hitler's true opinions of what Christianity and what the true religion should be. It's not a nobody. It's not like a random
Right.
journalist commentator. It's like Bormann himself.
But
Yeah.
outwardly, just like any modern politician, Hitler
Yeah.
ran as a Christian hero,
Mhm.
and outwardly did profess to be Christian. Outwardly did to profess to be protecting the homeland. So that's generally what gets carried over, even by people that hate him. It's commonly thought that he was probably faking it a bit, like Trump. Trump. I mean, the moment that he's ran for office, he's the deepest evangelical Christian ever. No one's ever seen anything like it. It's the most people say, I'm the most Christian. Yeah, sure, buddy. Right? Like, probably hadn't been to church in 30 years when he ran. So, it's similar to that, but those quotes are on the record, and those anchor the whole film. It's like you're in the midpoint of the film watching those speeches, and that anchors everything being said. So I'm always so happy to work on films that just have receipts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah,
That helps a lot.
And
Yeah.
Battlefield Europa got introduced right at it was interesting because I first came across it because of Sebastian. He was actually at work, and he had a fella that he was working with that approached him and said, if you're looking for, like more of an understanding of the stuff that we're not being told as far as like a potential truth film, take a look at this. I tore into it from top to bottom. And by the time I got to the end, I'm like, well, whoever it is that recommended this to you, it's the Jews that are the bad guys, and boy, they're painting
The
Hitler.
Jews.
They're painting Hitler as a hero, and I don't know if I'm sold on that. So, yeah, but it was right at the time when everybody was taking it on the chin with the consequences of COVID.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like your trust and your faith in the establishments. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, right. Your self-confidence in your own judgment is at the minimal at that point, right? Where people are that much more malleable and receptive to letting it all in. You're right. That's a good point of
And
the
it's not
timing
like-
of it all.
well,
And
sure.
it's not like World War II doesn't need some, I don't want to use the word revision. Please don't. No, the story that the kind of bedtime story we're told of World War II does need it's incorrect or missing massive holes because we won. I was born into a society that had all the whole story is all told the same way all the time by everyone. Churchill's a saint. He doesn't even he just floats across the
Right,
ground. He
right.
doesn't, and Britain and America they were just minding their own business, and nasty Hitler boy comes along. It's not like these stories don't need to be revised and revised heavily if we want to live in the truth.
I appreciated that about. I'm glad you brought up the fact that, again, you guys alluded to actual quotes from Hitler, because even when here in Calgary, for people who may not know, there was a Churchill statue that got erected. And me and Macy, knowing Matthew and Cynthia's work, went, wait a minute, Churchill deserves a statue in our city? I beg your pardon. And so we had Cynthia.
It's not our city, it's London City.
Right? London City, right? But then we had Cynthia on, and she did exactly what you guys do in all your research, and she just went, this is a quote from Churchill, this is a quote from Churchill, going straight to the source. That way there is no inference about, well, his actions might have done this thing. It's like he just straight up tells you exactly what he believes. And same with Hitler in this documentary. And so it does remove the gray zone, and that's why your guys' research is so effective, is because you just go to the paper that they wrote, like even Stephen Malthus, or Thomas Malthus, sorry, and you go, and it's right there. It's in the Principles of Population.
Yeah,
all you have to do is
the
read
babies.
it. Kill the baby.
He says it.
Kill the baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people may not appreciate that when it comes to research, because there's a lot of inference and guilty by association that you can do. On that Europa thing, I've heard one of the things you alluded to in the documentary was where these occult messaging ends up going towards, specifically the conservative and the Republican like movements. And I've heard you allude to Turning Point in some podcasts, but I had no context, so I just went, Turning Point? Really? Like Charlie Kirk? Really? And I was like, okay, sure, it's possible. But then because of the continuity that you paint,
It was the softest punch to the face that I think I've ever received.
It was, but it's still
Are you talking about that shot with General or Lieutenant Colonel or
Yes,
whatever?
with
his
Charlie
at
Kirk and then, Turning
USA?
Point
Yeah,
USA. Yeah.
He's on the board of
And,
directors.
Charlie,
Like,
Yeah.
the advisor to Turning Point.
Advisory
But
board,
so
yeah.
again, it's direct, because that's one of my I was listening to Matthew, you did an interview with William Ramsey on the Black Sun, though it was more like an interview of William Ramsey, and and you had alluded to the military, and even where you started at the beginning of this podcast with the CIA, and that being where things started for you, the modern day versions. That is one of the biggest things, and Turning Point is also very modern. So it's the past to present thing isn't just I tried to paint a line of continuity. There's direct line of continuity, and the fact of all of the military, and the Michael Aquinos, all the occult people happening to be. It's just like the same phenomenon where the rock and roll movement, all of their fathers happen to be generals and military professionals. So it's
Right.
connecting here too. We're witnessing the same phenomena, and people wrapping their mind around that, not just as it was in that one conspiracy book, that this is actually something that it permeates throughout every single thing. It's not just the music industry. It's also your political system. That was a very big correlation for me.
Thank you so much for pointing that out, guys. And yeah, the Turning Point USA thing, like the fact that Candace Owens' husband, what's his name, George Farmer, who's this British lord, is the founder, not even just a member of or a supporter of, but he's the founder of Turning Point UK.
Right.
It's like, who the hell is George Farmer? And his family is tied to, what's his name, Nicholas Hagar, who's this British MI6 operative who has been at the heart of redefining what America is for Americans around his bountiful work. I've got one of his books that I'm almost finished reading this book called The Secret Founding of America that he wrote in 1987, which Candace Owens gave put a whole show together
Yeah.
on the influence of this book
Yeah.
on her, turning her mind, changing her mind about what America is, as she's now come to discover through the help of Anglican high priests that help her become a Catholic somehow. How Anglicanism and Catholicism even like work together, I don't even know. And this guy Hagar, who she was given this book by this guy from this Anglican priest who initiated her into this new thing, and who taught her how America was actually founded by black magicians and Rosicrucians, and the whole thing is a satanic fraud, and America shouldn't even be a viable thing, is her new big discovery, that she's trying to take all of her followers into this vicarious discovery with her. And it was gross. It turned my stomach. And the more I read this guy Hager and how high he's the personal tutor to the current prince or whatever his name is, the guy who should be the emperor of Japan, the second heir of the Japanese throne. I forgot which name. Anyway, he's a very high level person. He was assigned also to go into the United States in the 60s and 70s to oversee COINTELPRO operations that were designed to infiltrate the Black Panther movement, the civil rights movement that turned them into kind of like impotent monstrosities of what they could have been. That was his assignment in the 60s and 70s. That's on his Wikipedia page. I'm like, this guy's got a very high level assignment, and he's the one who's authorized to rewrite American history somehow for Americans as this British MI6 operative, which is persuading Candace Owens to deconstruct her former American patriotic identity as she's becoming a British lady.
So quick question. First off, I want to put a mark on the wall. Matt forgot a name.
Yes, right.
The Cole's notes of his book. What is the secret founding of America? It's black magicians.
Yeah, it's all John Dee, Francis Bacon, Rosicrucian, black magicians, all of it. There's nothing good.
Ben Franklin's a black wizard or something.
Hellfire Club, black magician, baby killer. Yeah.
Baby killer.
Well, it's interesting because even when I was relating to Maddie's point, it made me kind of go it's just a lot of what we would call left hemisphere projection, but just the concept, explaining it to people of projection, it's basically when you have the Michael Aquinos and they have their, I guess, cults that they go into, and then they try all their little different weird rituals. The minute that you made a little bit of the connection between those weird rituals also kind of being experimented into the military as well, I was like, oh my God, it's like a rite of initiation for the military. And I'm
that's what they did with Mithra and the Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, it's all spanned from this weird ass
Yeah.
cult, and you're like, oh my God, could you imagine someone would shit themselves if they were like, wait, the military is a part of a cult? And it's well, kind of, in part, yeah.
Right.
Kind of always has been.
Right.
Yeah. Not to diminish it, that. It's not to say that there aren't good patriotic people who go to the military. That's also true. While at the same time, there has been this other thing.
Well,
their magic trick is co-opting those intentions.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the magic trick. It's the subtle twist. Because when you listen to Colonel Tanner Watkins talk about her experience, where she was I was literally in a position where I found myself assisting an outcome to something, and here I am 30 years serving in the American military or what have you. And this is one of those live action sort of come to Jesus, you think you see the world one way, and then your axiom gets completely shattered when you get this new information to then have to, take into account, oh wow, there's more nuances here, and oh no, it's are we the baddies, Fritz? That British play on German uniforms. It's actually, yeah, inadvertently you were. Your good intentions and your well-meaning reasoning, you got compartmentalized, and then you got used.
Mm-hmm. So I do have questions if I'm allowed to transition because I have so many, but I'll just go with what my main one is, because I think the thing that we also wanted to have both your brains, you, Jay, and Matthew, mesh together in is now almost relating it to kind of the bills that have been coming forward in Canada are pretty fucking scary. And then Mark Carney's kind of how he's been derived downstream of all of the research that has been presented in this documentary. And so for those that are Mark Carney's bad, or you're still not sure, this documentary also will give you some very good insight. And what my question was is it had to do with a particular chapter, and it was mainly when you were talking about the Young Plan and the Bank of International Settlements and how that related to Henry Ford merging with Standard Oil, and then also the Silver Shirts, Nazi Technocracy Incorporated, that segment. I'm wanting to touch on that more as well, because when we're going into sort of how weirdly all these companies oddly conglomerated or were derived from past Nazi banking structures in the Netherlands, and now it's transitioning here. And then what you have with the concepts of what is the behind the Bank of International Settlements and what like later spanned from all of these weird large conglomerates is what eventually became Mark Carney, and so and like what he came out of. And so I just wanted to ask your guys's I guess maybe if you wanted to a little summary for those that have not yet seen it and a little teaser of what that specific segment was talking about and relating it to X, Jay, your activity on X as well, and Matthew, your research on Mark Carney and what how that has come to where we are right now.
Jay, you first. You first.
I'm a drummer. What are you doing? Like, this is, you want to go from that lineage? Then let's start with Matt. We want to find out the technocrats and what set up Carney.
Well, I mean, don't underplay yourself, Jay. You're a good researcher too. You've done some incredibly good original research, and so you got a good feel for the modern fascism.
Okay, fine, but I mean, Carney hit me out of the blue. You were warning about him 6 years ago or something.
Yeah, but you're watching him now. What are you seeing that's in
the context of the entire world,
like revival of fascism
Commonwealth
and stuff? Yeah.
In the Commonwealth, we're seeing some kind of boot getting pushed onto a pedal to make sure that this, whatever this is, gets done. So we're seeing leaders being dropped, leaders being installed, which Carney was just installed. The guy hasn't lived here for decades. It's like Ignatieff all over again, except they had it all figured out. They just dropped him in and then went Trump. And so you didn't even need any issues or anything. He almost won a majority, but he's been installed. And now that he's in, you can see the game plan, get the majority no matter what, because you're about to ram through the most distasteful legislation for the next 2-3 years. That even many liberals are going to hate. So get that majority, get her done. Look at Australia, look at UK at the exact same time enacting the exact same legislation for internet backdoors and metadata retention and warrantless searches and this kind of stuff. All of it, Europe, there's been dozens of these kind of laws in Europe as well. We're all, whoosh, something needs to happen by a certain date, and Carney is the guy to do it. He's been installed to get it done, and that's my take on it. We can't have any of this annoying convoy stuff. We can't have any of this annoying bringing out facts that contradict what we have to say. We have to be able to shut down divisive conversation immediately. We need to start being able to get people in jail who talk too loud.
No, that's a good point,
that's
Jay,
my take.
because it's this thing on fascism. People will immediately assume, oh, this is right wing, this is conservative. Carney's a liberal, so it's like people will not correlate the fact that there are no political boundaries when it comes to. That's one thing that I listened to the interview, Matthew, with you and Mel K, and she was like, can we redefine, fascism and Nazism here? And that's what Jay's pointing out here, is because what seems on face right wing when it comes to the political terms, it's really not. These are policies that are irregardless of borders and nation states, hence the two wings of the same bird, and it's a global thing, not a political thing. And because they also, it's a political system is also theirs. And that's a very good point, Jay, for people that are still stuck thinking in left-right politics, and they're not thinking of top-down.
It's funny you say that. In my little return to X, I got into one of the usual kind of arguments. It was like total flashback to 2019, and I was complaining about something, and that it was coming from the Maoist far left, modern far left, and actual lefty gets in, tells me I'm an idiot, uses all sorts of cuss words, insults me, and dares me to list how this is a leftist operation. And I go, okay, fine, bullet point, list exactly how this is, exactly like the Cultural Revolution, leftism, blah, 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 described how it is. And he replied, well, everything you described is far right. And I was like, actually,
Right?
I want to get in there and do a victory lap, but I think you go, in a way, without you realizing it, you got it.
That's hilarious.
But once it becomes totalitarian or authoritarian, it doesn't really matter anymore. You have a strong identity politics that you push, that you defend against all others. You silence dissent. It's the same. Once it gets to that point, left and right doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different variations of fascism, right? Like there's corporatist fascism and monarchical fascism, and like Mussolini fascism is corporatist, and then Hitler's fascism is more national fascism. National socialism is the official name as far as I last checked. And there's so many different flavors, but I mean the common denominator amongst all of it is that it is all based upon the idea of some form of master slave dichotomy of society that should be organized around some unelected, unrepresentative high priest class who just knows better and are somehow of like a better stock, a better species that have like different rights inherent in their species that give them authority to manage the dumbed down herd that have to be kept at a reduced state of intellectual, spiritual, physical potential in some state of like dazed, I don't know, like superstition in an ideally, divided amongst themselves, depopulated fashion to better control the levers. But because you can't do it by peace, you can't do it peacefully. That's the irony is that they all like all these fascist systems promise or at least they aspire on the surface that they say at least to achieve order and stability. But then to get that order and stability requires constant permanent war and like starvation to keep people compliant and complacent and fearful and fighting amongst themselves because they know that if there actually was legitimate peace, they would work together. And they might discover along the way that, hey, they got the same assholes putting fires in both of their villages and they would work together to stop the arsonists. God
It's
forbid.
like they're impatient.
Yeah.
It's like they're just impatient.
Well, my tiny adage to that before Matthew you continue is it was funny. I was actually listening to, I guess, what would be considered more conservative and right wing sort of arguments. And when they were talking about the idea, it had to do with the whole trend of the stolen land and all of that. So it was a resurfacing of the argument of like, what's the difference between stolen and conquered, right? And but to me, even listening to some of their arguments, it was essentially putting forward the case that like, well, everybody's done it, and then at the same time, it's one of those. And you make the false. They say you make the false assumption that the people that were, I guess, the victims of being conquered wouldn't have just done the same thing had they had the chance, right? And so then that's the argument, as in like, well, if they had the chance, they would have just beat their asses too. And it's like no one thinks about win-win cooperation in that argument. No one's thinking, well, hold on, how come the victims? What if they were just the type of people where there would have been like, yo, let's have like a trade deal. Let's like go over and exchange information, exchange technologies, exchange research, exchange, and then we both just build up simultaneously. It's like, no, that cannot be an option. It's either I'm going to conquer you, and if I didn't, then you would have done the same to me. And it's like, that's a projection. Like, that's just not okay.
Yeah, maybe you're an infantile asshole that didn't like develop properly, and you're just like putting that onto everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe there's that. Yeah, well, that's why it's so useful to look at other cultures too. Like I just had a chat with in India. He's a French guy named cotc.ca, and he's pretty good. He's with a high level figure in an Indian think tank, and we disagreed a bunch of stuff, but he gave me a good exposition about China's deep philosophy. And he went through the origins and practical application of the system of Confucian it's called Tiangsha, and that's the idea of the Confucian mandate of heaven concept, which emanated from 2,500 years ago as an idea that man's law must only be legitimate and respected to the degree that it coheres with the laws of heaven. And if it does, it should be respected and abided for. And if it doesn't, then it should be overthrown and new laws should be instituted in its place. Very Jeffersonian. And that's like a really serious principle in the governing education of the Chinese political class in our present day. It's not just like a philosophical idea you just like smoke a joint about and philosophize about. It's like very practical. And he went, like if you think about it, there's concrete case studies where a different culture from a different cultural matrix, it's not ours, but you could learn things, about what they're lacking, what they have that they've figured out that we're still trying to figure out, what we've figured out that they're still trying to figure out. It's good to have these bases of comparison. But when they had their effort at going outside of themselves in the 15th century, with the these incredible, big, massive expeditions around General, what's his name? Admiral, I forget the 1420 explorations of the world. I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden. But there's this great. I mean, they had a fleet like 30 times bigger than Christopher Columbus's fleet 80 years later. And they went to Africa, they went to India, they went all over. They probably went to the Americas, and they just wanted commerce, like they were bringing back giraffes from Africa. They were bringing in silk into Africa. Like they were just looking for points of like ways of collaborating and finding common interest to build business relations, and it's really, it works better when you do that and you don't try to suppress and undermine a neighboring power. But the problem is, we've had similar philosophies in the Western matrix, but every time that they kind of start getting a handle on things, they get subverted, assassinated, and then the assholes come in who replace their doctrines with something more imperial that presume that, yeah, we got to destroy the weaker, whatever new society we're intervening upon before they get too rich and destroy us. And you start getting this weird self paradigm, whether it's from the Portuguese in Latin America or in Asia or the Spanish or the British or the French. And we just haven't figured it out properly that it's really much more in our self-interest if we simply work together, which shouldn't be that abstract or utopian of an idea. It should be very practical and concrete, but we have not quite figured it out yet because of this damn magician class that gives us
it's
things
that
like the
impatience.
Nazis. Huh?
It's that impatience. Like
Yeah, show 'em
reach
people,
out to people, start trading with them, start talking to them. Might
Yeah.
take decades, centuries before everything's done, but you'll have peace. But everybody's impatient. I'm going to get there first. I'm going to control it first. And it reminds me of, if you're talking about China, that quote with, I don't remember which leader it was. You'll probably know it. And I think an American diplomat asked him, what do you think of the American experiment? What do you think of America, as a republic? And this isn't that long ago. This is like a decade ago or something. And the Chinese guy answers, hasn't been that long. We'll see how it works out.
Too soon to tell.
Yeah. America's like 250 years old. And that
Right.
explains, that's the Chinese attitude, right? This ancient arc that you're trying to flow through, instead of just like, what's the stocks tomorrow? How are we going to get oil up? Are these Arabs are troublesome. Let's go bomb them. Like very, very different worldview. Matt, has China ever conquested anybody? Like taken over their land and stuff like that? Tibet?
Yeah, there's Tibet. And then you got to ignore the whole CIA thing, right? Around like, what is the Dalai Lama? Because
who gets
which comes into our movie, surprisingly so. That comes into our Black Sun movie.
That blew my mind. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know he was big Nazi golden child when I saw that film.
Yeah, Heinrich Ehret for
they're
Brad
trying
Pitt.
to paint him as some hero.
I know.
But it's going to be all Jewish producers. Like, what's going on? What's going on? What's the deal?
That
was another mind blow.
That's a great paradox too, yeah.
Dude, the whole Jewish thing I find is hilarious because, and you going into the Book of Zion, I mean, I knew a little bit about from your guys' Breaking History days.
The protocols?
Yeah, the protocols of Zion.
Yeah.
Just the paradox of the fact that supposed, this Jewish problem, and yet it was the anti-Semites that created this whole entity in the first place to have them in a location where you could be like capitally, optimally controlled. And it's still technocratic if you think about it, because you're centralizing the Jews all to one place, and then they create this narrative out of it, and so you get another myth that this superiority complex, but it's not even, it wasn't theirs. It originated from, again, all of these Nazis, the fascists.
Well, yeah, and I've come to realize that it's only become more real to me after this film was made, and I've continued to sort of scratch on this because I didn't fully resolve the paradox of like, why are all of these anti-Jewish Nazis who really do despise the Jews? They do. They think of the Jews, Eichmann, Hitler, they don't like the Jews. as a people, as a genetic stock. They think of them as under humans. They really do, but they love Zionism. Like, why? Why? Why is
Right?
Eichmann studying Hebrew to be able to practice Kabbalah? Why is he doing that? and it's increasingly become more and more real in my mind that Kabbalah, as it is understood by this black magician, sort of culty dark thing, it's Babylonian witchcraft. So it's Chaldean, Oracle, Babylonian witchcraft, which was infused into the Jewish culture when the Jews were in captivity in Babylon, and before most of the Jewish Bible was even written. That became the Old Testament in the Christian world. That was like this period before Cyrus the Great came in and so-called liberated them. I'm not even sure that he really did that, and then built their temple a second time. But a lot of this seems to be that 40-year period where there were certain select priests from representing the Yahweh religion when the Jews were in there, and who were assigned to infuse certain Babylonian mythologies and also practical magic into the Jewish matrix, as well as the oral Torah, which is what part of Kabbalah became, like the passing on orally but not written of the secret, teachings of Moses, whoever that was. But it was just a reiteration, a rebranding of an already very ancient dark magic into a nominally Jewish skin suit, but that wasn't really Jewish at all. So that's where I began. It's become more and more real the more I look into it, of why it is that all the Nazis were so obsessed with creating this particular new kind of ethno-nationalist, Kabbalistic based state in that particular area where Babylon used to exist. And that would, according to the theories of Greater Israel promoted by people like Theodor Herzl, who comes in our documentary, who also is known as the father of Zionism, but he didn't like the Jews. And there's a lot of quotes where Theodor Herzl is even talking about how wonderful anti-Semitism is because it's helping the cause of Zionism. Because it's making, Jews not feel welcome in Russia
Right.
and Europe and England. So they're like,
Right.
we want to leave because anti-Semitism. So he's like, this is great. And he believes that Israel, this new thing, shouldn't just be this small sliver of area that we currently have on the map, but he thinks it should be much bigger, like from like a big chunk of Egypt all the way up until like most of Syria and all of Jordan and some of Saudi Arabia and all of Iraq and some of Turkey. Which looks a lot like when you look at the map of what they want and then compare it to Nebuchadnezzar's map of what Babylon was when the Jews were in captivity. It's disturbingly similar as far as the overall mapping. It almost overlaps perfectly.
That and
yeah.
the parallels I've been going over, almost like basically like my 15 minutes a day of Matthew reading. So I'm going into the Untold History of Canada, and in the very first chapter, it parallels to how the Britain at the time was wanting to put forward the Intolerable Acts, so that way it would force America into this state of war of words with Great Britain, because Britain thought that they were powerful enough after the 7 Years' War to go to war with America. And so they were like, we need to pressure cook them to the point where they feel like they want to fight us, so that way when we are at our strongest. And then it's the same thing then with the Jews. It's like you created the problem, which was this anti-Semitism that fuels the fire in the pressure cooker to get them to quite literally go somewhere because you think you're strongest, right, to take care of that. And so I'm like, it's the same playbook.
Yeah, it's fanatical marcher lords. This is a signature of the magicians, right? And so they're trying to basically get the Jews to be this thing that they were in Babylon, to be that again for them right now, right? To use them as a shield or a sword, whatever use they feel necessary, in order to have their agenda carried out in a region of which it's not going to benefit any honest practicer of Judaism, as far as it's traditionally would be looked at, not this Fabian version of it.
Heather Lynn is a really good researcher, and she's written some really good essays that I found I've taken a lot of use or a lot of value out of. And one of them was on her exploration of the theories of René Girard, who is a very when he was still a student at Stanford. And Gerald was very close to Leo Strauss, to Heidegger, to some very, very Carl Schmitt, the Nazi crown jurist. He had a deep structure thesis about the importance to civilization's continuity for the sacrifice, the sacred sacrifice. And in his worldview, and I think he didn't originate this, it's just he kind of repackaged it for his audience, but it's been a thing for a very long time, is that society will always tend to decay because these are misanthropic, cynical people who believe that human beings are just natural beasts who are selfish by nature and can't live together and cooperate. So they have a very cynical view. And because we will always be selfish and seek to undermine our neighbor by design, that the only way to avoid society's collapse, which is the natural outcome of just humans being humans, is for it to destabilize and weaken and collapse into self-cannibalism, is for a sacred sacrifice to emerge, for everybody to give their hate, to give their blame for all of their problems to a certain useful sacrifice, whether an individual or a people's group that we can all collectively agree is the cause of our problems. And then we can all collectively take pleasure in the destruction of that evil people group or people or individual. And he's got a whole thesis around this notion. It's sick, which is his scapegoat thesis, of the origin of the scapegoat. So I really do think that when Peter Thiel, who was so he wasn't just exposed to, he really immersed himself into Girard's thesis. And so many of these transhumanist types around Thiel have also really, really been infused by this as their governing sort of calculus of how they think of the world and how they think of Israel. I'm starting to think that even back in the 19th century, when those architects who all hated the Jews were setting the stage for the creation of what became Israel as a Zionist state, I think that the idea was to ultimately try to create some scapegoat that would collectively absorb the hate and anger that everybody would feel in some sort of a mass collective sacrifice. But it has to become the worst version of itself humanly possible first for that to fully take a cathartic effect. You want that catharsis to fully have that impact that it should have. And so the Jewish culture has to be perverted first to become the worst brand of what it could possibly be. At which point, you can get that letting go of that tension, right? And then the system can kind of recalibrate somehow in their fucked up imagination.
They want the whole world to have their 2 minutes of hate right there, right now.
Yeah.
I had a question for Jason, because I was curious, at the beginning, alluding to the progression of all of these docufilms that you've done for Matthew at this point, you also having discernment and discretion of your own, being a researcher and a solid mind that you are. How did you see them? Because I know you also critique. So it's if you don't see something that's necessarily in the continuity, you're like, Matthew, think about this. So did the previous episodes, doing Calypso's Island from the Rising Tide Foundation, doing the Hidden Hand Behind UFOs, did those help with the visuals and where you wanted to help take the story? I know it got, there's multiple drafts, but in the creation of it overall, how did it go through your brain in the continuity? Was it a clearer picture? Did you have to go, even new knowledge coming at you, does that throw you off and have to make you do a little bit of a deep dive on your own so you could further get context to know what put in?
It's such a living, evolving thing, right? Doing this. So the first few that we did were 7 to 15 minutes long. I think I narrated the first few of them. And I just had a small bag of tricks for cool titles and effects and stuff. And I just narrate and then plop my little cool bag of tricks on. Try not to reuse too many of them, and done. And trying to up my game each time, because I have my channels and stuff that I watch on YouTube that I watch, and I'm just like, how are you doing this? This is beautiful. right? And then, you know, I go get like a beer and sit down for a minute and go, oh, I think I know how he did that. So that's always like the living stream, just as getting better and more experience in this. I'm always trying to try something else, and not necessarily copying. There's some of that Picasso, right? You know, like artist steal kind of thing. There's a bit of copying going on, but there's generally just like I don't have to just put a picture up. I can make it move. It doesn't have to just be black and white. I can add color. I can keep visual interest up by doing this and that. Calypso's Island, it's funny you mentioned, that was the first time where script is done. It's Cynthia, you know, Matt, have you ever noticed it? Like you're like you get it out and then we start working and then we see how it's flowing and then we redo. Cynthia's like, it's done. Go do your thing, Jason. Pretty much don't hear from her again until it's time for
like
revision.
the first draft is the final draft.
Yeah. What do you mean
She's
draft?
She's like, I have controlling interests and will control your interests. Here it
There are
is.
no drafts.
And
But
to be fair, though, I
to
mean,
be
she's done so many, like, she does a lot of writing. Like, she does more writing than talking. So it's like, if she's writing a script, I have a feel like it's a masterpiece. It's meant to be how it's meant to be.
Yes, and it's an internal process for her, and there's far fewer of ones that are Cynthia's. So they come along, and she's been working on it for a year or something by the time we get that script drop, right? Where Matt is like, okay, I'm going to like Puerto Vallarta next week, and then a month after I'm going to Japan, and then I'm going to get this out, get it to Jay, and we'll start working and see where it goes. Which is totally just another way of doing things. It's great. But Cynthia's script drops, and I'm just like, first of all, you know, we've all agreed it can't have like the aggressive like hip hop beats and fast cuts and slams the way the Canadian Patriot does. The Canadian Patriot is okay with being a little more, don't want to keep it classy, but we push it a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, it can be a little bit more punching in the face.
Yeah. For fancier effects, a little bit louder music. Rising Tide needs to be like, you know. So that's daunting.
That was classy.
And we know we want a really smooth and evolved visual style. And so I get this big giant script, and I'm just like, okay. So between her script on Hidden Hand and then Calypso, those are my big dives. That's when AI became available to really do serious work, not just slop. So that was a big evolution in not just pulling down stock videos, not just pulling down newsline episodes and stuff like that from the internet and voiceover, to actually creating original graphics and content to an extreme degree, to where most of the film is
right.
not
Because that's
stock.
true. In her first episode of Hidden Hand Behind UFOs, there was this whole like first 8 minutes of the gods, the ancient gods, and the mystery, the sacred mythologies of the origin stories of the ancient gods. And how do you illustrate that, right? Like, what do you do with that?
The first Hidden Hand was the real like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
Luckily, right around that time, Adobe Firefly came out, so I was able to actually start generating some of this stuff, which is a dream. You know, there's a lot of icky stuff about AI, but this isn't one of it. It's a force multiplier of just the highest.
And that's the thing with like
degree.
Cynthia, like her expectations are always so like a little bit outside of the capabilities of like, as well as me too. Like I feel your pain. So it's because she throw things at me. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't think that way. And that's great, right? That's how you and you can see it. Like it creates a space of healthy challenge for us to like figure out, okay, how do we like live up to that? Is that possible? And
I can't just chop another thing together. Yeah, I can't just do it the way I did it. We're gonna have to figure out something new. Yeah. Including
trapped
in the cave,
exiting the cave or something.
That was my first 3D graphics intro, where you push past the credits into the cave, all in 3D.
Great.
Like that was. Now it's to the point where I'm getting pretty good command over things, and now it's more of an artistic evolution. You see this. The base of everything in Black Sun Rising is black and white. It's been kind of locked in because we're dealing with the 20s and the 30s and the 1800s. And if we do have any photos, it's black and white. If we have text, it's black and white. So I was pushing myself to get more motion and more color into that black and white. So now I've used lens distortions, tints. If you go back and watch it again, you'll see I've chosen to have like green tints all over everything.
I love the witches
when
you have the Vril witches and you had them walking all of a sudden, because you said that one picture of the witches and you actually got them all to like walk, and you have that one
So
back like hobbling.
Yes, so this was the next evolution of AI. So the tech is growing with me at the same time. So AI, back when I first used Firefly, it would have been unthinkable to try to go for these animations. But here, and you know, very often the pictures that exist of figures or you know, that shot of the witches walking and stuff, Matt's like, use this image, it's perfect, and he sends it to me and it's this big. And it's the only image that anyone's ever got of it, has ever found of it on the entire internet.
Yep.
But now I can go into Grok and say, well, upscale this. I don't even have to. I just say, take these subjects and make them walk in a ritual.
Right. Well, what I loved is what you did with the shoddy image of the 5 root races by Blavatsky, and there was like that really crappy 1970s like painting of these, like, you know, different root races all the way up to like this like more angelic demonic being, and you just like ran it through. I don't know whether you would you use Grok or something to turn that into like high-end.
You just have to imagine that each one of these that comes out really pretty and really nice, it's probably 10 to 12 arguments with it. The AI is always just trying to make it slop. Always just trying to make it slop, look like that. Now we can all immediately recognize that style where it's not quite a photo and not quite a cartoon. It's in the middle, and you're just like, AI. It's always trying to seep that back in. It's always trying to write things on the screen. It's always trying to add stuff to make it fancy. And it's just so each one of these, it can do it now, but boy, do you ever have to learn the language, learn how to control it.
Let's take a moment to actually promote that your app, because like we want to share the trailer. And I also know that we got to start thinking about getting close to winding the episode down, because I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. I got to be at the gym in the morning. So, but the thing is that
over there.
we want to give an opportunity to like pump the tires of Dahl Studios and this particular app that seems very useful for people that are going to be creators that are having arguments with Apple, I believe you said.
So it's very particular, right? Anybody watching? If you're a Final Cut Pro user, right, which I am, so everything that we do is in Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro is the most fun to use, but it's the most Apple to use. So anybody with an Apple iPhone who's ever had like a particular thing that you want to do, like with a file or a picture, and you're just like, why, Tim Cook? Why can't I just do the thing with my file that I want to do? Final Cut Pro is very Apple. So everything's hidden. You don't get much control over where files are or that kind of thing. So for instance, I just opened up the first one we ever made. You know, why do you think there'll be another election? Matt, you remember that one? It's like our first actual standalone documentary. And I open up in Final Cut, and every second clip on the timeline has got a big red warning sign on it because the media is missing. The special effects plugin that I used, or the audio plugin that I used to get the effects that I wanted, is gone off my hard drive because this was made 3 Macs ago on a completely different operating system with a totally different install of files. And if you try to figure out what it is, it just says on the timeline, it's called Title 1. And you search your hard drive for Title 1 when you're a video editor, you're going to come up with 10,000 Title 1s. My app will tell you what package it came from so that you could then go back to the website, reinstall it, and get your timeline back up and running.
Well, this is important too, because this allows the Digital Library of Alexandria to stay current. So I definitely want to encourage people to do that who are documentary filmmakers or people that are getting into that realm or have played with things before. If you can give it a facelift by using Jay's work to help get it current and up and running again, this gives new wind to an old sail.
The digital revolution has been fantastic to make, you know, like to consider the films that Matt and I make it, and Cynthia, this would have required a team of people before.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just whoever writes the script and me now. So the digital revolution is incredible, but the downside of the digital revolution is archiving.
Let's take a moment and give the viewers a taste with this trailer.
Love this opening part.
That's my favorite shot when he looks at the bishop.
The hooded high priest and the Nazi standing side by side. Great.
Is it possible that nearly 80 years after World War II, the dream of a new global fascist Reich envisioned by Hitler and Mussolini may yet be upon us? With the increasingly unavoidable reality that much of our history has been composed of nothing but dark lies, the popularity in conspiracy theories has grown in leaps and bounds. And while that may not be such a bad thing, since all of our history and present world has been shaped by conspiracies for good and for bad, it must be acknowledged that not all conspiracy theories are true, and some are simply wrong.
Brilliant.
But how do we differentiate the false from the true?
Couldn't resist.
One particularly startling vein of conspiracy narrative that has gained popularity in recent years, and which has targeted a large number of Christian-leaning conservatives, involves the idea that Hitler may not have been the villain, but was in fact the hero of World War II. Due to heavy doses of propaganda, an echo chamber of narrative shapers, and also incredibly evil behavior from Israel's own elite obsessed with a Greater Israel program involving the ethnic cleansing of much of the Middle East, it is understandable that many well-intentioned people have come to believe that the cause of all the world's problems are, once again, the Jews. And of course, if this simplistic equation be true, then it logically follows that literally every movement that hated the Jews throughout history can be quickly given a clean, rehabilitated gloss, including the Crusader Knights that launched the Crusades 1,000 years ago, and of course, the Nazi movement of the 20th century. Some examples of the type of pro-Nazi propaganda that is emerging onto the scene in today's world includes, but is not limited to, the 10-part neo-Nazi series Europa, The Last Battle, and the newest film produced by the former mercenary turned rapper turned conspiracy guru Stu Peters, dubbed Occupied. Influencers like Nick Fuentes have arisen seemingly out of nowhere, garnering tens of millions of followers who don't mind the fact that the young provocateur loudly asserts that Hitler was a cool, patriotic leader who led a cool, patriotic movement to restore the dignity of the German population. And let's not forget Kanye West, who has released clothing lines featuring swastikas and has featured Hitler's speeches infused into his popular music. So, while a positive rehabilitation of Hitler's image is undoubtedly underway, and it is also worth asking, do those who promote the rebranding of Hitler's image have any idea what the Führer and his higher command were doing in Wewelsburg Castle? Do people know why the black magicians of the Thule Society and Himmler's New Templar Order were attempting to invoke demons to help usher in an age of Kali Yuga, resetting all of humanity for a 1,000-year Reich?
This is a brilliant image you came up with here.
Does Nick Fuentes or his followers have any idea why Hitler literally rewrote the entire Bible, introducing an Aryan Christ and new commandments such as keep thy blood pure and honor thy Führer? Do you know why the top command of the Nazi elite were never punished after World War II? And why organizations like NATO, the European Union or even US and British special forces continued a Nazi vision for creating a reset of all of human civilization, in most cases directly under Nazi supervision throughout the entirety of the Cold War. Do you think that any of this may affect the world that you are currently living in? Let's explore that.
That one blew my mind, dude. Just seeing it mapped out like that, like so blatant.
Yeah, man. No, that was great. Oh, wait, not done yet. Let's continue.
It's your trailer.
I was gonna say, Matthew, milk it, milk it.
And yeah,
No,
you know,
Jason. And what was so great, Jason, is that you were able to weave together the feeling of the cosmological sort of tapestry, that aesthetic of these people believe religiously in a whole sick galactic cosmology that infused itself into the practical thing called Nazism. And usually they're treated as that's usually treated as a very practical geopolitical thing. And you were able to get the aesthetic of the theosophical,
Yep.
mysticism embedded within as the creepiness factor of the fascist sort of rise. It was great that you got both of those worlds to blend together really, really well. It's really
thanks. It was again, it's like good arguments with AI, and then not relying on AI. The shot that you called out there, where we're going over like the ruined amphitheater into the void, into like the Hindu void, and then the swastika comes in and stuff. So
Perfect.
it's like 3 different elements. Some are cut from existing pictures. Background's AI. Swastika is another, just a stock image, I think, that I flipped to match the color. But it's just like you were asking before about the flow. It's getting that kind of flow. Like, now I know what I can rely on. At first, I was trying to cheat, and I'd be like, I just copy chunks of the script over to the AI and say like, what would be some good visuals for this, hoping that it would just draw the perfect image, and I could just hit animate, and I'd be done the whole script in a night. But in fact, it's like learning the language, and that's what,
Right.
when you're saying that, Matt, it's like that's what eventually it became. I'm trying to describe to it the cosmic threat. I'm trying to describe to it the vision. Now give me an image that shows alignment or something like that, instead of saying like, here's the script, draw me a picture that works.
The wildest one that really rocked my world was where you have the images of the the cataclysmic Armageddonist Templar scenarios of the Crusades, and you have like the background night sky featuring like thunderbolts and lightning with this like medieval war scenario going on.
Yeah.
Like, that was so grandiose and epic that you were able to get. I guess you got AI to do that for you. It was incredible.
Again, a combo.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking of the one it's the same thing. Eventually I drew a picture of an apocalyptic Jerusalem that I liked, and then I had to composite in the lightning bolts and the sounds of thunder and all that stuff to go with it. So it's a combo. It's the rise of the robots with the rise of the Dahl.
I just gotta say, I mean, like, kudos to you, because learning AI language and Matthew Ehret language at the same time, whew, that's a big task.
Yeah.
that's
There's striking similarities.
And for people to find this documentary that we've been raving about, it says right here, 75-minute film, Black Sun Rising. You can either subscribe to Matthew Ehret's Substack and then get access. You can also rent it, so that's very modern, or you can purchase it. So those are 3 ways that you can do that thing. And then, as it says here on Matthew's Substack, there's a 200-page special report that goes alongside the film that people can also purchase. So those are different ways to gain access to this.
It's good to see, right? I mean, like, all the hardcore fans don't mind renting a film from you, of course.
Yeah.
And get some money back in the coffers. People probably also have no idea how much work goes into this.
Yeah.
And it won't be doable unless there is funding there. So
Little shout out to the audience watching. If you want to see more of these kinds of videos, just kick in, contact us through either the website, Jay's website, the Canadian Patriot website, however you can contact us and ask us how you can help by making a donation towards making more movies and help Jay pay for his noodles. There's it's a lot of noodles to make these things. And we'll talk.
I've got the most trailer park Yukon Whitehorse lawn. It's a bunch of dandelions that feature grass here and there, and the whole front quarter of it is just dust and sand and rocks. And within 2 years, I want to have 1950s perfectly manicured lawn.
All right, that's the goal.
That you can only see 2 months out of the year.
Yeah, but I mean,
we all know once climate controlled dome, of course.
We'll work towards that.
Nuclear power.
Yeah, the Diefenbaker vision of the North.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll start at Jay's compound.
Yeah. Turn my trailer into a concrete bunker. But it's that much more important because it's 2 months of summer.
And also for those listening too, this at the end of July, I guess all of us are going to be convening in Ontario, and there will be a screening, followed by a little bit of a chit chat, with a live audience for those who want to come to a screening, and you guys are going to be there, and we'll all be able to meet in person. Jay, if you can get a plane ticket out of Yukon and come to Ontario, you're more than welcome to.
Where is this? Huh? Where is this happening?
Near Toronto.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
And we'll very well might. Don't tempt me. As long as I got my Mexico money, I'll get back to you.
This is gonna, part of me is gonna be shocked because if we actually get to meet face to face for the first time in Ontario, when you're like not that far
I'm gonna get emotional.
from where we are right here in Alberta,
nice.
I'll be like, wow, the universe has an odd way of doing
Don't
things.
do that. That's rude.
Yeah.
You're gaslighting me.
I'll take it any way we
I'm
can get
emotionally
it.
invested. For people to also get a hold of Jay and check out his work and his very saucy opinions, he is on X, Super Spreaders. All of these links will be in the description. And this is another link, this Hoppo bio, where you can look at his medias.
That's in my description from X. So if you want to bark about politics or you want to make a political flick or something, find Super Spreaders on super_spreaders on X. If you're looking for just general video editing, audio mixing and stuff like that, that's dollhousestudios.com.
Yes, and that is where you can find the app that he was alluding to earlier. And all of the documentaries that we've been alluding to, The Hidden Hand Behind UFOs, and then some of the ones on Mark Harney, that's on Canadian Patriot Press. I'll put that in the description. And Calypso's Island from Cynthia and Jay are on the Rising Tide Foundation on YouTube. So all of these will be in the description for people to watch and feel inspired to support these people.
We're
those
family.
thumbnails makes me want to watch them again.
Yeah, right?
If you, I recommend you watch Calypso's Island after you've done the other ones, because the other ones are a little bit black pilly, but at the end, they're always a good message. But Calypso's Island, I felt like the first time I watched it, I literally cried because I was like, oh, it's so hopeful. People are amazing. And so you should definitely do that last.
That's like automatic now. You notice I think the most common thing I've always got feedback for on scripts, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, is but we need the button. We need the button at the end.
Button?
The button?
Right? Yeah, we need to put a button on it at the end of the script.
Oh, you mean the uplifting thing?
Yep, we got to like reach up to something. It doesn't have to be uplifting, but Canadian Patriot and Rising Tide want to be uplifting. So,
well, and I think that the possibility, right? Like possibility of human potential, it can be realized. I mean, it's one of the things that our household is. We're big on meritocracy. We're big on the hard work. We understand that it takes time to do incremental progress, but you have to put the right mode of attention and a willingness to bring that service and bear it forth into reality. And the work that you two have done, over the course of the body of the work of these films shows that due diligence. And that's one of the big reasons why we're just very honored to have you both come and be on our channel. Mike. And that we're the plebs, like we're that sincere, authentic family that, has started a journey. And, Matthew knows because he spends a lot of time at our kitchen table, and hopefully one day Jay will too. And that there's an honest sincerity about how we go about things. We're not sponsored by anybody other than our own due diligence and convictions. So, and there's something to be said for that. We don't tolerate the excuses that people like to offer when, we want them to do the work. do the work. Watch the videos, read the books, get to the gym, whatever it is that's going to make you better so that you can see the button that Jay talks about. It's about it.
Well, your
Yeah, Mike.
well, your first
What-
step is for those that like may or may not think that, I don't know, the Nazism and Hitler was a good thing. It's like when the minute this is why it's called changing axioms, right? So it's like if your axiom throughout this whole show has been kind of like a little bit already massaged throughout the conversations that we've had here today, then it's like your first step would be, instead of, I don't know, watching a movie at the end of your day, you're like, okay, fam, we're gonna hunker down for this documentary because it's very much eye candy. It's like well worth the time on that respect, and it's very soul quenching in both good and bad ways. So
Yeah, to share that knowledge with your family, that was like, we all sat down as a clan and we watched it. So
That's amazing.
And yeah, so I would definitely encourage share your experience of exploring
Hug a
this
pillow.
work with a friend.
get your popcorn.
It's no joke. Being able to go with somebody else is so important.
I literally paused it.
Get your brown paper bags together for the whole clan to just hyperventilate together.
Yes. Well,
We felt that this one had ventured into it's like our first horror movie.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way? Like it felt kind of Nosferatu-ish. It's like our Nosferatu. It's just
in a weird way,
creepy, like,
but
yeah,
it
like-
was important to have that ending, which didn't exist in the last draft, right, of the film. We just kind of ended it, and we're like, it's a little bit too heavy. The soul needs to breathe a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we came up with that extra 4-minute ending that I think was needed to just very important to edify and give the soul a chance to fly a little bit.
Yeah,
outside
it
of
was
some of the dark
ominous.
shit.
You were completely out of breath at that very moment,
Yes.
and then even the pause, and then it was like epilogue. Okay,
yeah.
With an uplifting message, which is what
God is good.
Yeah, yeah.
God,
Which,
all right.
which is what's always drawn me to. It's always drawn me to Matt and
Babies.
Cynthia's work that it's uplifting. Ultimately, it's uplift.
That's right. The solution-oriented
Not just
possibility.
complaining. Yeah, there's plenty of complaining to do, but it's not just complaining.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
guys, no, it's always uplifting to talk to you guys as well. And I love listening to your podcast, the way you've all philosophically become in tune with the question of changing axioms as the baseline of all of your conversations with all of your guests. You're always like zeroing in on the question of how do you think about thinking. That always sort of is the theme that governs the dialogue and whatever flow it takes. It's just wonderful to get people into that practice and state of mind, because it helps us all become more like live vicariously through the experience of listening to you chat organically with different guests, and then learn how to, okay, I shouldn't necessarily hold on to all of the core unexamined assumptions as deeply as perhaps I have been. And I see you guys going through the process of making transparent your own discoveries, and it helps other people go along with that journey too. And it's just great. So I love this friendship and what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
We want to trigger mirror neurons. Like, we feel like there's an honesty in showing people your fallibility, and to understand that, but there's a sincerity to want to work through it. And we would like to do it together. And we especially like doing it with our guests.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
now
Comes
that I'm
out.
back in Twitter Spaces and stuff, I'm still bringing up the Holmes and how they went and took over their local UCP, and you can do it too. And guess what? You know, it's like 3 years ish. I guess we've known each other, something like that. And since you guys did that action and became part of your local political parties and stuff like that, I'm in Spaces now. It's all mostly the same people, same freedom crowd, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're so black pill. There's nothing we can do. There's no point, or let's do this or let's do that." And I'm like, "You're all the same people. You heard me tell this story. Have any of you joined your local political parties? Have any of you taken any action? Have you joined a school board? Have you joined the library board? Have you done anything like that?" No, there's no point.
Yeah, we were actually our most recent interview with Michael Harris and Isaiah. They're two university student kids, and the thing is, we're not in politics because we're passionate about politics. We've spent this whole podcast talking about why that doesn't work, because turns out, brains and intentions from oligarchies and religions transcend political borders. But even just meeting people, that has changed everything, because even now, I mean, I'm going to have somebody from our local CA coming onto a podcast. She's an older lady. She's never been on a podcast before, but she's going to talk about something that here in Alberta, this an independence thing, she's going to have a friendly debate on our podcast. And she's never been.
great.
But it's just because of the rapport of being on your CA board, showing that you're willing to do the work and you're willing to be in boots on the ground with your fellow person, even if you don't always see eye to eye. And that human connection alone is worth all of the stupid garbage that you have to listen to from your MLAs, from your whatever. It's like you're going to connect with the people. And even if you don't see eye to eye, they are going to give you the respect because you are just doing the thing that Calypso's Island and that you guys were just talking about, the human potential. It resonates and you can't discard it. And so...
Yeah. But the whole point is, like, even with those out there, let's say the people that are just maybe not awake, they haven't changed their axioms, they don't even know what their axioms are, to be honest. That's actually a majority of people. It's like when you get to meet people that are kind of like that, where you have to be in that state of negotiation, what Maddie's talking about is the long game, like rapport building. Like you just have to show that you'll treat them like a human being. And then consequently, they mirror neurons, they might treat you like a human being. And then that is, I think, how we're trying to slowly affect change as best we can. And then of course we keep our ourselves ready for anything that might come otherwise that might not help with politics.
It's that scenario.
Yeah.
But you're doing the human thing. That's the
Situational
good
awareness.
thing. Yeah.
Yes.
The human thing is the good thing to do. That's good. Right.
All right, you guys.
Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being a part of our show and
Thank
your
you.
friendship. We are honored to know you.
Aw.
Likewise.
Bye.
100%. Bye.